Hey guys, if you're looking to clear Abyss difficulty on the Warden or Guila, I'm going to go over a few teams that you may be able to use to try and clear it. And if this video is long enough, you'll see timestamps in the description, but if it's not long and I just rapid fire through the teams, then probably just watch the whole video to get an idea of what you can use. So this is the team I am using, and I think it's probably one of the best teams, but there are better teams out there that you can pre-farm your magic gauge. So you see at the bottom the magic gauge just goes up a little by little bit purple. What people do is they charge up the magic gauge outside of fighting, and you'll have 6 magic gauge. You go in there, you combine alt, and you just burst the boss down. You can do that. Like as free to play, you're not going to be able to burst it down just because it's like you don't have enough damage. But if that's an option you want to choose for whatever unit you have, you can do that. But I'm going to go over teams that kind of worked well together and, that could help you clear it easier. So this is the first team. This one requires you to get kind of lucky, and I would recommend, honestly, I did say hold on to that star ticket, but like the amount of value that Diane provides for Abyss teams is actually like insane. You can live so much easier. You don't have to care as much about getting hit and anything like that. So we're going to start with this team. Here, Elaine I have on this book, so if I somehow, let's go into her details. If I somehow get behind the enemy, right, which it's pretty easy to do because sometimes they'll be attacking and that takes a second or two for them to actually do the attack, and in that time you want to go behind them and trigger the crit resistance debuff. Your melee crits 40% more often, and then this is besides his own buffs, so you're basically increasing his crit chance by 40%. And so this is the setup I want to use for Elaine. Armor, I have a pretty trash one, so if this was level 2 or 3, this would be insane because you get so much magic burst, magic gauge, like 2,000, I think it's 2,500, and you're just like putting out alts left and right, and then doesn't matter if it's Diane or Meliodas, I'm going to go over it again. And then mastery, it doesn't really matter. She doesn't really get much until potential 5 right here. But if you have potential 4, it just makes it so the debuff that gets applied to the enemy for better earth burst efficiency. So let me go back to the skills. You want to use this skill. You don't need to use the shield. You can if you're taking some damage, but this one for 20 seconds goes up to 30 seconds and reduces the enemy's earth burst resistance. So you're using Diane and Elaine together is probably going to be the best bursting setup outside of combined ultimates. So you do that. Potential, again, this doesn't really matter. It just gives me more earth damage, which is not my focus, but I'll go over that later. And then the other engrave set for Elaine is useless, just to make sure you're not using this because it's for wind, right? So it works with her getting buffs, which she doesn't really get from the earth setup. It's for the wind setup. So going over to Meliodas, you don't really need much. As you can see, my Meliodas is pretty mediocre. Crit chance is only 35%. Crit damage is 75%. You don't need to limit break any of your weapons either. This is going to be like pretty easy to do. Right, not easy, okay? This is difficult, but you can do it within the time limit. So normal skill damage, darkness attack is a pretty good roll. This one I just have equipment attack to give me a little bit more stats on my Meliodas, and then this one again doesn't really matter. So armor, you probably want to use a set. I'm going to be doing some testing with other gear sets to see if there's anything that can beat this. But as you do your normal skills, you get some more damage. You get some attack gauge if you attack without the burst. The second person not that important, but you get a lot of darkness attack from this set. If you have the Arachne set fully built, or even just like the 3-piece, put it on because it's actually 10% crit rate that you get added to your character, so not 10% fire attack. They have to fix that translation issue. So if I go back here, as you can see, I have 4,500 darkness attack, and then on top of that I have 44% darkness attack on top of that, so we're looking at 6,000 or so more darkness attack. And Again, this is all achievable free to play, right? Like, I never bought summons outside of maybe like 5 or 10 summons, and this is what I just got from doing like 120. And then skins, I mean, doesn't really matter. This one, if you want to use the axe, you can try it, but the longsword is probably the more balanced build overall. And if you use the axe, just make sure you're using this set. And then if we go to Diane, I have a potential 6, so I got a little bit lucky. Weapons, I have this gauntlet on her. This is my opening weapon, so I'll touch the enemy with this, and then I'll switch to Elaine, put the debuff on, come back to Diane, and then burst them down. If you can possibly control your burst and switch to Elaine to actually trigger the final bit, so like you're looking at 5 to 10% burst on the enemy's meter, do that, because you get again, I said you get the magic gauge, and that's going to be important. I'm going to talk about why, okay? And then armor, you want to use the set. Like, there is no way, unless you're using this, unless you're using the axe, do not use this set, because it's not going to help you. As you can see, if I were to use the axe, I have a crazy set right here, 128 level 3 passive. I mean, the substats don't really matter that much. I can reroll that in the future, but like, you can do that. Again, I'll talk about some replacements you can make in a little bit. And then you want to have this set for the burst efficiency. So on the substat of the earring, you get some burst efficiency. Let's see how much it is to upgrade it. I think you get 1 more %. Yeah, it's not really worth it. It's kind of trash. But if you get lucky on the chance-based bonus, you can also get all burst efficiency. So if you look out for that, here again, these two things don't really matter. You're just looking for the set bonus as well. So 1000's tag gauge. If you're attacking something that doesn't have a burst activated, which obviously it won't, before you actually trigger the burst with Elaine. And then you see the ultimate move damage buff is also going to be important, okay? So let's go over to the potential. Again, I don't think there's really anything useful until potential 5. Here, it just gives you a little bit of earth damage. Then we'll go here, potential 7, ultimate move damage. You don't get anything for bursting down the enemy until you're at potential 10, so, don't worry about it too much. This doesn't do much. So that's Diane. And then Daisy, I don't really have a proper setup for her. I just have her in the team because of this skill right here. So if we go to the Electro, and this buff gives me 40%, 40 seconds, oh my goodness, I can't think. 15% crit damage for 40 seconds, right? So that's pretty helpful. Comes in handy because of the crit resistance that you're lowering using Elaine. If you have P5, then the same thing. You're just going to get, instead of 15%, you get 30% crit damage increase. So that's pretty good. Armor set, you probably want to use this one. I have the other one, but I believe that is for the lightning set. So each time an allied hero receives yeah, so you need a lightning crit chance boost. All allies. I think this is for when you have lightning heroes. Okay, let me make sure, because there's something that gives. Yeah. So right here you can see electric charge increases lightning heroes crit damage and crit chance. So this is the one that gives lightning heroes buffs, and then if you have that, you can use the set. And as you're getting those crit chance buffs, you get more crit damage, right? So that's pretty big if you're using a lightning team, but I'm not. So I'm just having it on here because I get some bonuses, I guess. So that's my team setup, right? And again, if you have sets built out, just throw them on there. Arachne set here would give me a lot more crit chance to start with, and overall, that's not too bad. So here, this is probably the ideal team, unless you're doing that magic burst thing. What you want to do, or what you can do, instead of Elaine, you can use Manny. So instead of Elaine or Daisy, you can use Manny, and I would recommend switching out Daisy if you have Manny. I don't, so I'm using Daisy just for that crit damage buff. If you don't have Meliodas, but you have Diane built out, I've seen enough clips where you can use the axe as the DPS weapon, but that requires you to have a good earth burst, which is only really going to be Tiore at potential level 10, and then if you do a combined alt, I don't think I can see it here. Yeah, if you do a combined alt with the axe and Daisy, then you can get the burst gauge filled up, and then you will do your big slam skill with the axe over and over, and that probably will kill the boss. But again, it's the setup. You need some time to build up the magic gauge and then go back in, make sure you actually pull everything up together. I don't know if you can do it at P5, you probably can, but that's another thing you can do. If you have lightning set up, I don't know how well that's going to work, just because the Earth team gets so much of a boost on this difficulty that you're bursting a lot faster. You have a lot of sustenance with Diane's ultimate and Elaine's shield. And then here again, if you have Manny, you get different buffs as well, right? So if you don't have Meliodas, try to use Diane X as your DPS, or the Sword and Shield Daisy as your DPS. You could probably still get away with that. If you don't have Diane and you pick Jericho, you can use Jericho instead of Diane. It's just going to be a little bit harder to stay alive. So if it's the Warden, it's not that hard. As you can see, my clear time here, 35 seconds or 36, I was duoed with somebody that was using Jericho, right, and I was using Diane. I pulled off the burst a little bit quicker than him, but you know, we were both pretty strong, so we cleared this in 30 seconds, which was not a bad time. So that probably is all the changes you could make to the team. I know I said I would go over different teams, but I think that the way I explained everything might make sense to what you want and you don't want in the team. Let me see if the timer goes off. No, okay. And if you don't have lightning set up, you can do a fire setup as well with Tristan and Guila, because Tristan has a set that gives you more fire gauge and reduces the normal skill cooldown. So if I go over to Tristan real quickly, his dual sword skill, this big one, as you can see, is a 16-second cooldown, but you get it lowered by 50% when you do the skill. So if you want to use that, Tristan dual swords and rapier Guila, you can do that. And that would probably also get you pretty far. So let's see if we can go ahead and clear this without too much difficulty. Again, I don't know everybody's going to have this team, just because you need to have both the new units. Come on. Okay. Burst it down. Alright, here we go. Unfortunately, I don't have my, Can I... Okay. I don't have my magic gauge right now, but I'm going to try to build up to it. I don't even know where I got hit from, but okay. As you can see, I'm not playing perfectly, because I should be triggering the burst at the end with Elaine, but... When you're here, stay towards the right lane, or not right lane, also towards the outline, the red outline, and he's not going to be able to touch you. So, alright, we're going to try and trigger this with, okay, messed it up again. That's fine. Now, why Daisy also works really well, I completely forgot to mention this, but I can just alt and then get my charge back, which I messed up because I didn't do my haste skill. But you get the point, right? Let's go here. Alright, let's see if we can trigger with... There we go. As you can see, my burst just jumped up like crazy. And then, that was it. So if I can do that in Guila, I'm going to try right now. And see if we can get that done. Guila's definitely a little bit more challenging to do, but, you know, I'm sure we can get it done here. Need some keys. Okay. Then, here we go. Let's go try this on Guila. I've already made a video on this, like, using this team, but that was my showcase video. This time I'm talking through the team fully, so... The dungeon, Guila. But yeah, like... With the introduction of Daisy, she's such a good 4th spot, because you only need 5 alt gauge, not 6 or 7, and then you trigger the whole darkness burst again, and then with the longsword is actually really good. You don't need that with the dual swords, because you already have so much burst gauge that you're charging. But the longsword just keeps eating up your dark gauge, so... Let's see. Last time I did this, I kind of had a hard time, so let's hope this video goes better. Alright. I'm gonna start off with Elaine. Not Elaine, what's her name? Diane. Quick resistance. Trigger that. Oh, I should have triggered the burst with messed up. Move, move, move. Okay. I didn't trigger the buff with... Oh my goodness. Okay, game is bugged. Alright, now, this time when I do it, it should be good. Oh, I'm taking a lot of damage. What the heck? I want to heal up first before we do any of that. Okay, healed up. Here we go. Gonna use this. Oh, okay, missed. See if we can get there we go. I don't use the shield on Elaine enough. I should probably use that more often. Okay, trigger the burst with her. Again, I'm not using the crit damage buff from Daisy either, so... Uh-oh. Not looking good. Not looking good. Alright. You know what? Let's go ahead. Do this. Trigger the burst. That was a perfect setup. I did the crit damage buff. Triggered the crit resistance. And then... should be good. Hopefully. Oh, there we go. Don't die here. Should be the end here soon. Alright, so as you can see, it takes a while. Guila's not easy, especially without Diane. You're gonna have such a hard time, in my opinion. But you know, you can get it done. You don't need Daisy. Just gonna take a little bit longer. If you have someone really upgraded like Diane again with the axe, she's probably going to be really good as well. So let's see what we get out of here with the chest. Not the chest, oh my goodness, whatever it's called, cube. Anything good? Oh, it's not too bad. Oh, okay. What is that, lance? Nice, not bad. 20% rate, so we got kind of lucky. But I can't craft another blueprint now. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed and you found that useful, at least how to set up your team if you have certain units. And if you did, I'd appreciate it if you can leave a like. Other than that, I hope you have a good day. Thank you for watching.